Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to be taking a look at how to quickly and easily get started using your X32 mixing console. Let's get started. This is the Behringer X32 digital mixing console. It's a very powerful console, 32 inputs, it's got 16 outputs, you can record with it, you can do all sorts of things with it. But the nice thing about it is, it's actually very easy to use. Today, we'll be walking through how to connect a microphone, get that signal into the mixer, get it back out to your speakers, as well as feed it through monitors and the onboard effects. Now, one thing to know about the X32 is that there's usually more than one way to do things. There are multiple places to access different settings and so on. So we'll be looking at some of those, but I want to look at the most streamlined approach so you can quickly get up and running. First of all, of course, we need to connect our microphone, and we'll be using what are called the local connections. Those are actually the connections that are on the back panel of the console. And that would be as opposed to a stage box or other peripheral that's connected that you would hook up to remotely. So I've got my Shure SM58 microphone cable coming into channel 1. Now right now, not much is really happening because I haven't set anything up yet. I haven't told the console about the microphone or got it routed through the signal path. The first thing we need to do is set the gain level for the microphone preamp. That really sets the incoming signal level for the microphone. We want that to be nice and strong so we're feeding the rest of the signal path, but we don't want to get it too loud so that we get distortion. The first thing we'll want to do is make sure that home is selected here on our screen. Just press the home button to make that happen, and you can see you have an overview of all the settings for the selected channel that you're working on. In our case, we're working on channel 1, so I'll select that. The select buttons are here. You can see as I step through those, the screen's flashing as it changes to the different channels. But we'll stay with channel 1 because that's where I've connected my microphone. Now the controls are actually duplicated. We have physical controls here, and here we have a representation of those controls on the screen, and we can turn and access some of those using the knobs that are underneath depending on what the setting is. So the first thing I like to do is start to increase the gain until we see level on our meters. We're going to turn that up, turn that up, turn that up. We can see it both here on the level dB meter on the channel strip, and we can also see it here on the screen. We want that to be a nice strong signal, but we don't want to push into the red, and really we don't want to push too far into the yellow. We just want a nice solid signal coming into the console. If you're using a condenser microphone, you may need to activate 48 volt phantom power. I've got a Shure SM58 dynamic microphone, so no 48 volt phantom power is required. In some cases, for example, when you're making a drum kit, you may need to flip the polarity so that the phase is correct among mics, and that switch is here. But for a single vocal mic, we don't need to worry about that. If we have a lot of rumble or boominess, or if you've got a stage that rattles and rumbles, you may want to engage the low cut switch, and this will cut some low frequencies out and clean up that signal for you. If you don't need that, that's fine, you don't have to engage it. We can adjust the frequency for that as well by turning this knob. So you want to raise that frequency to where it's removing the unwanted rumble without really affecting the sound of your voice. Now another nice option for each of our sections here of the channel strip is we can view those independently on the screen. So if I push view, that's our friend here, we can see our controls. Here's my gain control. As I turn that, you can see it moving on the screen. We can also adjust it here as well. So we have plenty of options for doing that. We can select our inputs, just as we do on the front panel, 48 volt phantom power, and so on. Now as we move through the different sections of the channel strip, we can also press view on those to see a representation of what's happening. And we'll come back to some of those a little bit later. But right now we've got our initial stage set up. So at this point we've got our microphone feeding into the console, we've got level on our meters. Why aren't we hearing it? It's because we haven't set up the rest of the signal path yet. Here's what we need to do. We've got our signal coming in. We need to raise the channel fader. That brings the signal into the rest of the signal path. Let's go back to our home setting here so we can see that passing through. We need to make sure that we're assigned to the main stereo bus. We turn that on and off. And then our main stereo fader, which controls the overall level that's going to feed our speakers, is here. Turn that up to 0. Now at this point, you should hear my voice coming through the rest of the system. So there's those 3 level controls that you need to be aware of. Generally, I'll set the main fader up to about 0. I'll bring up the channel fader to 0, and that's what you're going to use for your mixing later as you blend your signals together. And our input gain sets that incoming level signal. So balancing those 3 settings is what's going to give you what's called good gain staging and allow you to mix effectively using the faders later. Now one other thing to be aware of when we're talking about the faders, or these sliders down here that control the levels, is that we obviously have more channels and more outputs than are represented by the physical faders here. The way that the X32 handles that is with what's called layers. So our first layer is channels 1 through 16 here. That's our first 16 inputs. Our second layer is channels 17 through 32 on the back panel. The third layer is our auxiliary inputs. You can see there's 8 of those on the back panel, as well as our effects coming back in. And then we have our bus masters here as well. Because we have motorized faders, those move to their positions and remember where they're placed as you move among the different layers. But we're on channel 1, so we'll want to be on the channel 1 to 16 layer. Now, there are other things we can do with the channel, with this channel strip, that allow us to shape the signal, control noise, and so on. Controlling noise is very easy with the gate. The gate simply shuts off the channel when you're not singing or talking through the microphone, and that cuts out any background noise. So you turn that on. We can view that if we want to. We can set our threshold. When the signal falls below the threshold, the channel automatically shuts off. You can see it drops below here on the screen. We also have dynamics control, and this evens out the level of our signal, so it compresses it, meaning that it keeps the peaks from getting too loud so we can have a louder average level. We engage that by pressing the compression expansion switch. We can view that also. And now we adjust our threshold here, and when we cross the threshold point, you start to compress the signal, which evens out the dynamics. Now, I recommend being pretty cautious with both of these dynamics processors, the gate and the dynamics. It's very easy to overcompress and squash the signal. That makes it sound smaller, it makes it sound lifeless, and it makes it harder for the performer as well. And if you gate too heavily, you'll be chopping off some of your desired signal. So you want to be careful with both of those two settings. Use them cautiously. Our next section is the equalizer section, and this is our tone control. We have a 4-band tone control here. So we've got low frequencies, which is the bass. Let's go ahead and engage that. We can turn up the bass on our signal. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. We also have low mids. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. High mids. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. And high frequencies. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, we can view those on the screen if we like. So here you can see the actual EQ curve that I've created. I've dropped my low frequencies, I've dropped my low mids and my high mids a little bit, and I've boosted my highs. By turning the knobs, we adjust those. All right, so let's disengage that. The second to last section here is our bus sends. Now, these bus sends allow us to route our incoming signal to different destinations. So for example, 1 through 12 might be used to feed to monitors on stage, maybe in-ear monitors or wedge monitors or some other destination. And we can view those. So we can see when we turn those up, here's bus send 1. So at this point, bus send 1 would be coming out of output 1 on the back panel. And you can change all these routings and things, but by default, that's where it would be going. We bring that back down. Here you can see that we're feeding out of bus 2. Buses 13 through 16 are used to feed the onboard effects processors. So if we switch to view those, I'll turn up 13. We bring up our reverb, and you can start to hear that effect. And we can also mix that effect by bringing it down here. So we can blend that effect back in along with our signal. If we go back to our channel, we can turn that down, and we could turn up, so you can see that's here, and we can set the time by tapping, tapping, and again, you can blend that back in with your signal. By controlling this fader. Check. Check. I've got a very long delay time right now. Check, 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 check. So bouncing between our channels and our buses allows us to mix those effects, which are controlled over here, back in with our signal. The last setting we have is feeding into our output, our main output, which again would probably go to our speakers. There's a mono output and there's also a stereo output. So the stereo output is the main output. Let's go back to our home here. The main output, we can adjust the pan for that here, left, right. You can see it changing on screen. And this is the output that you're actually hearing in this video. The mono output is typically used to feed a subwoofer because subwoofers typically are going to be mono speakers. And so that's going to add low frequency content. So if you have a separate subwoofer, you can feed out of the mono output and control its level here. And once again, we can get a closer look by pressing the view button. This shows us our left, our sub, and our right. I'm changing the pan so you're seeing the levels of those change, vice versa one another. So that's really all there is to routing a signal through the X32. We come in the input, set the gain, we have our channel strip for whatever processing we want to add. We can send out to monitors, we can send to our effects that are built into the X32. We can route to our main output for our speakers and a subwoofer if we want. So you want to familiarize yourself with the channel strip, with the different layers, with the master output, and with this effects section. And those are going to be the main things you're going to use for creating your mixes. Now, all of this is available right here on the screen as well. So if we press home, we get the overview. We can see an overview of all the meters, of all the signals. We can work with the routing here. Now, this looks very complicated, but basically what you're doing is just assigning different inputs and outputs to different locations. We have overall setup, and one nice thing in the overall setup area is that we can actually name our channels. So for example, on channel 1, I've got a vocal here. So let's scroll down and choose from among the many different options. Many different options. There's male vocal. So we'll select that, and you see male vocal is here on channel 1. So you can name each of the channels as well as assign an icon if you like, so that you can very quickly identify what's coming in each input. So that's under your setup page there. Library is where we store different scenes and settings. Effects gives us more control over our onboard effects. Mute groups are used if you're setting things up to where you want to be able to quickly mute groups of channels simultaneously. And then we have utility for some of the basic settings as well. But really, as far as getting signals in and mixing a show, push your home control, work with your channels and your channel strip here, moving among them for your different inputs, select your effects, and so on, and you'll be good to go. If you have questions about the X32 console, any other Behringer products, be sure to contact your Sweetwater sales engineer or visit sweetwater.com. We've got tons of information and resources available to help you on your way to learning your way around this incredible console. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater.